May 1995, Spanish Fork, Utah. The sun hung high over the quiet American town, casting long shadows across the streets and the red brick facade of the local high school. Inside, the corridors buzzed with the usual cacophony of teenage life. But amidst this everyday scene, a mystery was about to unfold that would haunt the town for decades. Kiplyn Davis, a 15-year-old student known for her vibrant smile and infectious laughter, was in the midst of her school day, moving between classes, unaware that this day would change everything. She was a familiar face in the halls, known for her easygoing nature and ability to strike a conversation with anyone. As the lunch bell rang, students poured out of classrooms, filling the cafeteria and spilling onto the school grounds. Kiplyn, with her light brown hair cascading over her shoulders, joined her friends, laughing and sharing stories. No one, not even Kiplyn herself, could have suspected that these were her final hours within the safety of her school. Later that afternoon, as the final bell echoed through the emptying halls, a chilling silence settled in one corner of the school. Kiplyn's seat in her last class remained conspicuously empty. Her friends assumed she had left early, perhaps for an impromptu adventure, a thought not uncommon for the free-spirited teenager. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, a sense of unease began to grow. Kiplyn, who was usually home by this time, was nowhere to be found. Her parents, who had nurtured her in a loving and close-knit family, felt a pang of worry when she didn't return from school. The hours ticked by, turning into night, and the Davis household was engulfed in a tense silence, punctuated only by the occasional ringing of the phone and the murmur of hushed conversations. Kiplyn's younger sister clutched her teddy bear, sensing the growing alarm but not fully understanding the gravity of the situation. As darkness enveloped the town, the unsettling truth began to dawn on the Davis family and the close-knit community of Spanish Fork. Kiplyn Davis had vanished, seemingly into thin air, right in the middle of a school day. And so began a mystery that would echo through the halls of the school and the streets of the town for years to come. Before the inexplicable disappearance that cast a shadow over Spanish Fork, Kiplyn Davis's life was a beacon of youthful exuberance and promise. Born on a warm summer day, July 1, 1979, Kiplyn entered the world in a small, tight-knit community where everyone knew each other's names and doors were left unlocked. The Davis household, nestled in the heart of Spanish Fork, Utah, was filled with love and laughter, with Kiplyn as its brightest star. Her parents, ever supportive and caring, watched with pride as their daughter grew into a vivacious young girl with a magnetic personality. Kiplyn's younger sister looked up to her, always trying to follow in her footsteps, whether it was in the backyard games they played or the dreams they shared. Kiplyn's presence at school was equally impactful. Her classmates were drawn to her natural charm and her ability to make anyone feel included. With a wide circle of friends, she navigated the complex world of high school with a grace that belied her years. Her social nature extended beyond the confines of school. Kiplyn participated in various activities, but her true passion lay in the theatrical arts. She found solace and expression on the stage, immersing herself in characters and stories that transported her and her audience to different worlds. As the months rolled on towards the fateful day of her disappearance, life seemed full of possibilities for Kiplyn. She eagerly anticipated the summer holidays, a time for adventures and the freedom that only those precious months could bring. Her 16th birthday was on the horizon, a milestone she had been excitedly counting down to. Kiplyn's excitement wasn't just for her birthday. She was on the cusp of another significant teenage rite of passage, getting her driver's license. She imagined the independence it would bring, the open roads leading to new experiences and adventures with her friends. But all these dreams, the simple joys of teenage life, and the bright future that lay ahead were abruptly halted. The curtain fell prematurely on the stage of Kiplyn's life, leaving behind a stunned community and a family grappling with the unimaginable. Her disappearance was not just a loss of a person, but the dimming of a light that had brightened so many lives. In the heart of Spanish Fork, The Davis family home, once filled with laughter and warmth, now echoed with unspoken fears and unanswered questions. Where was Kiplyn? What had happened to their radiant daughter, sister, and friend? The morning of May 2, 1995, in Spanish Fork, began like any other, with the promise of a regular school day. The sun peeked through the curtains of Kiplyn Davis's room, casting a warm glow on her peaceful face. It was an important day for her, one that started earlier than usual. Kiplyn had set her alarm for 5:30 a.m., the ungodly hour for any teenager, especially one who cherished her sleep as much as she did. The reason was significant. She was scheduled to attend an early morning session at the driving school, a step closer to the independence she yearned for. But as the alarm buzzed, Kiplyn, in her half-asleep state, made a decision that would alter the course of the day. She turned off the alarm and slipped back into her dreams. Half an hour later, her father, sensing the unusual silence, nudged the door open to find Kiplyn still enveloped in her blankets. A mix of concern and mild irritation washed over him as he realized she was going to be late for her driving lesson. He gently shook her awake, reminding her of the day's plan. Kiplyn, groggy and disoriented, begged for just a few more minutes of sleep, trying to convince her father to let her skip the driving lesson. In her mind, missing one session wouldn't make much difference. But her father, knowing how much she looked forward to getting her license, insisted she get up and get ready. Reluctantly, Kiplyn complied, though not without a sense of annoyance. The morning rush was more frantic than usual. Kiplyn hurried through her routine, missing out on her usual meticulous attention to her appearance, a ritual that was part of her daily school life. She left the house with a sense of frustration, a feeling compounded by her father's insistence on adhering to the schedule. Her mother, sensing the tension, tried to lighten the mood as she drove Kiplyn to the driving school. But the usual chatter was replaced with silence, punctuated only by the hum of the car engine and the occasional muffled sound of the morning radio. As Kiplyn stepped out of the car at the driving school, neither she nor her mother realized this was the last time they would see each other. The day that started with a typical family squabble and a rushed morning was about to spiral into an abyss of uncertainty and despair. As the clock ticked on, the Davis family's life, once anchored in routine and normalcy, was about to be thrown into a whirlwind of confusion and heartache. The hours passed, and with each tick of the clock, the mystery of Kiplyn's whereabouts deepened, engulfing the town in a cloud of mystery and fear. The afternoon at Spanish Fork High School was winding down. Classes had ended, and the corridors were gradually emptying. The bustle of students gave way to a quieter, more subdued atmosphere. But in the Davis household, a sense of unease was steadily mounting. Kiplyn, who was always back home at this time, had not returned. Her father, after a tiring day at work, came home expecting to find Kiplyn engrossed in her homework or chatting on the phone, as was her usual routine. Instead, he was greeted by an eerie silence. The house, usually filled with Kiplyn's laughter and chatter, felt unusually still. Thinking Kiplyn might have stayed back for an extracurricular activity or gone out with friends, he tried to dismiss the worry gnawing at him. Yet, something didn't feel right. Kiplyn was responsible. She would have informed them if her plans had changed. The growing concern propelled him to check the voicemail, hoping for a message from Kiplyn explaining her delay. Instead, a different kind of message awaited him. The school secretary had called. Kiplyn had missed all her classes after lunch. This revelation struck him like a bolt of lightning. His daughter, who valued her education and was hardly ever absent, skipping half a day of school without a word. It was out of character, incomprehensible. Panic set in as he dialed his wife's number, his hands trembling. She, too, was unaware of Kiplyn's whereabouts. The pieces of an alarming puzzle were beginning to fall into place. Kiplyn's mother rushed home, her mind racing with dreadful possibilities. The couple waited, each minute stretching into an eternity, hoping Kiplyn would walk through the door, laughing off their concerns with a reasonable explanation. But as the clock hands moved, hope started to give way to dread. Finally, unable to bear the suspense any longer, they began making calls. One by one, Kiplyn's friends responded with the same answer. They hadn't seen her since lunch at school. The concern escalated to fear. It wasn't like Kiplyn to disappear without a trace, to leave no word. As evening turned into night, her parents' desperation grew. They drove to the school, searching the now deserted classrooms and hallways, calling out her name, hoping for a response. But the silent halls offered no answers. Their next stop was the church, a place Kiplyn often visited. But there too, she was nowhere to be found. The sinking feeling in their hearts was undeniable. Something was terribly wrong. The night air was chilly as they stood outside the church, the realization setting in. Their beloved daughter, Kiplyn, had vanished. It was time to call the police. What had started as a regular day had spiraled into a parent's worst nightmare. The mystery of Kiplyn's whereabouts was just the beginning of a long, arduous journey for the Davis family and the entire community of Spanish Fork. The Davis home, once a sanctuary of familial warmth, had transformed into a command center of desperation and fear. Kiplyn's parents, fraught with worry, dialed the number for the local police, their voices trembling as they reported their daughter missing. The initial response from the authorities was tepid, steeped in the too often held belief that Kiplyn was just another teenager who had decided to rebel by running away from home. The possibility that she might have voluntarily left with friends, or for a moment of teenage adventure, was a scenario all too familiar to law enforcement. This response, while procedural, was a cold splash of reality for Kiplyn's parents. They knew their daughter. Kiplyn wasn't a rebellious child. She was responsible, kind-hearted, and always communicated her plans. The idea that she would leave without a word was inconceivable to them. Despite their insistence that Kiplyn's disappearance was out of character, the police decided to take a wait-and-see approach, agreeing to issue a be-on-the-lookout (VOLO) alert to patrol units, but stopping short of launching a full-scale search. This decision left Kiplyn's parents feeling helpless and frustrated, their fears dismissed, their concerns minimized. The night wore on with no word from Kiplyn. Her room, a vibrant space that mirrored her personality, lay untouched, a silent testament to her abrupt absence. Her parents found themselves wandering into her room, half expecting to see her there, lost in a book or humming along to her favorite songs. But the reality was stark, her absence palpable. Determined not to sit idly by, Kiplyn's parents took matters into their own hands. They began a tireless campaign, calling every friend, every acquaintance, anyone who might have seen or heard from Kiplyn. Each call, however, only deepened the mystery. No one had seen her since school. As dawn broke, bringing light to a sleepless night, the gravity of the situation settled over Spanish Fork. The word of Kiplyn's disappearance spread, igniting concern among neighbors and friends. The community, usually calm and serene, was now clouded with the anxiety of the unknown. Kiplyn's disappearance became the talk of the town, with speculations and rumors filling the void left by the lack of concrete information. Meanwhile, her parents, running on adrenaline and hope, continued their quest for answers, clinging to the belief that any moment, Kiplyn would walk back into their lives, safe and unharmed. The reluctance of the police to immediately dive into the case was a decision that would be questioned and regretted in the years to come. As the sun rose on a new day, the search for Kiplyn Davis, the girl who vanished from Spanish Fork High School, had only just begun. With the dawn of a new day, the Davis family's hope wavered on the edge of despair. Kiplyn's bedroom remained untouched, a silent reminder of the void her absence had created. As the initial shock began to settle, the focus shifted to gathering clues, any piece of information that could lead to Kiplyn. It was then that a potentially crucial detail emerged, one that added a new layer of complexity to the case. Kiplyn's classmates recalled seeing her talking to an older student, Chris, during lunch on the day she disappeared. Chris, known in the school for his somewhat troubled reputation, also attended the theater club with Kiplyn. This connection sparked the first real lead in the case and a flicker of hope in the hearts of her distraught parents. Compelled by this new information, Kiplyn's father delved deeper. He discovered that not only had Kiplyn been speaking with Chris, but she had also made plans to skip school with another boy, Brandon. Brandon, a name unfamiliar to her parents, was a revelation that added more questions than answers. Despite their daughter's responsible nature, the possibility that Kiplyn might have skipped school for a day out with a boy, especially one they knew nothing about, was a scenario they hadn't considered. This revelation was a double-edged sword. It provided a direction for the investigation, but also opened up a realm of uncomfortable possibilities. The Davis family's growing suspicion was met with another setback. The police, still reluctant to treat the case as a potential abduction or foul play, were slow to act on these leads. Frustrated but undeterred, Kiplyn's parents continued their own investigation, calling Brandon's family, only to discover that he too had an unverified alibi for the afternoon Kiplyn went missing. As the day turned into evening, the community of Spanish Fork rallied around the Davis family. Neighbors, friends, and even strangers came forward, offering help, sharing stories, and providing whatever support they could. The town, once just a backdrop to Kiplyn's life, now played an integral role in the search for her. Meanwhile, the police began to pay heed to the mounting pressure from the community and the persistence of the Davis family. They started to investigate the leads involving Chris and Brandon, interviewing them and their acquaintances, trying to piece together the puzzle of Kiplyn's last known interactions. But as the investigation slowly gained momentum, the truth remained elusive, hidden behind a veil of teenage secrecy and unspoken truths. Each new clue seemed to lead to more questions, the mystery of Kiplyn Davis's disappearance deepening with every passing hour. The small town of Spanish Fork, once a haven of tranquility, was now the center of a perplexing mystery, a mystery that had snatched away one of its own, leaving behind a trail of clues, suspicions, and a family's unyielding hope for answers. As days turned into weeks, and weeks stretched into months, the fervent search for Kiplyn Davis in Spanish Fork transformed into a haunting tale of absence. The initial flurry of activity, the urgency of the search, gradually waned, leaving behind a profound silence punctuated by the echoes of unanswered questions. The Davis family's home, once a hub of hope and relentless investigation, now bore the weight of unresolved grief. Kiplyn's room became a shrine to her memory, her belongings untouched, as if frozen in time. Her parents clung to the hope that one day she would return to reclaim them. The community, too, felt the lingering shadow of Kiplyn's disappearance. Her classmates graduated, moved on to college or jobs, their lives progressing in the natural rhythm of time. Yet, in their hearts and in the quiet corners of Spanish Fork, Kiplyn's absence remained a palpable presence, a story unfinished, a melody abruptly halted. As years rolled by, the case saw numerous detectives come and go, each bringing a new perspective, a fresh set of eyes, but no closer to unraveling the mystery. The leads that once seemed promising, the interactions with Chris and the plans with Brandon, turned into dead ends, leaving the investigation in a perpetual state of limbo. Despite the passage of time, the Davis family never relented in their quest for answers. They kept Kiplyn's story alive, speaking to anyone who would listen, keeping her face in the public eye, and hoping against hope that someone somewhere held the key to their daughter's whereabouts. The police, too, under the weight of public pressure and the persistence of the Davis family, continued their investigation, albeit with a growing sense of frustration and helplessness. The lack of physical evidence, the absence of conclusive leads, and the passage of time made the case increasingly difficult to solve. In the quiet of their home, Kiplyn's parents often sifted through her belongings, reading her diaries, looking at her photographs, searching for any clue they might have missed. They wondered about her dreams, her fears, the life she would have lived. They grappled with the unknown, the most torturous aspect of their ordeal. As the millennium turned, Kiplyn's story became a haunting legend in Spanish Fork, a tale of a bright young girl who vanished without a trace, leaving behind a community forever changed. Her friends, now adults, occasionally gathered, reminiscing about the girl they once knew, wondering about the fate that befell her. The years of silence and echoes deepened the mystery surrounding Kiplyn Davis. Her disappearance was not just a case filed in the police department. It was a wound in the heart of a small town, a constant reminder of the fragility of life and the persistence of hope in the face of the unfathomable. Years had passed since Kiplyn Davis disappeared from the streets of Spanish Fork, with the case growing colder as time marched on. The once fervent whispers and speculations had faded, replaced by a resigned silence. But just when the case seemed destined to remain an unsolved enigma, a sudden and unexpected development reignited the flame of hope. A new piece of information surfaced, a revelation that sent shockwaves through the community and breathed new life into the stagnant investigation. A classmate of Kiplyn, who had remained silent for years, came forward with a startling confession. He had seen Kiplyn on the day she vanished, not alone, but in the company of several boys, including the older student, Chris, and another boy from her class. This revelation shattered the years of silence, compelling the police to re-examine the case with renewed vigor. The detectives, re-energized by this new lead, delved back into the investigation, re-interviewing witnesses, and re-evaluating old evidence with a fresh perspective. The revelation also cast a shadow of suspicion over some of Kiplyn's classmates, particularly those who were last seen with her. The community, which had once viewed these individuals as mere schoolmates of Kiplyn, now scrutinized them with a mix of curiosity and suspicion. For Kiplyn's parents, this breakthrough was a bittersweet moment. The possibility that someone they might have known, someone who had walked the same school halls as their daughter, could be involved in her disappearance was a haunting thought. Yet the resurgence of activity in the case brought a renewed sense of hope, a belief that justice for Kiplyn might finally be within reach. As the investigation intensified, the small town of Spanish Fork found itself under a spotlight once again. Local news outlets, and even some national ones, began to cover the story, drawing attention to the renewed efforts to uncover the truth behind Kiplyn's disappearance. The police, now facing public and media scrutiny, worked diligently to piece together the events of that fateful day. They re-examined Kiplyn's interactions with her classmates, the dynamics of her social circle, and the myriad of teenage relationships that had previously seemed irrelevant or innocuous. With each passing day, the investigation uncovered new layers, revealing the complex tapestry of adolescent life, with its hidden alliances, unspoken tensions, and secret romances. The detectives found themselves navigating a labyrinth of teenage drama, trying to discern truth from fiction, facts from rumors. In this renewed quest for the truth, Kiplyn's story was no longer just a cold case in a small town. It had become a symbol of the enduring pursuit of justice, a testament to the power of persistence, and a reminder of the impact one life can have on a community. The resurgence in Kiplyn Davis's case turned Spanish Fork into a hive of activity. The once dormant investigation was now a flurry of action, with detectives meticulously combing through every piece of evidence and every statement. The new lead had opened up a Pandora's box of possibilities, and the police were determined not to leave any stone unturned. As the detectives delved deeper, the complexity of the case became apparent. They discovered that the web of relationships and interactions among Kiplyn's peers was far more intricate than they had initially thought. Each interview, each re-examined piece of evidence, seemed to add more threads to an already tangled mystery. The focus of the investigation turned to the last few people who had seen Kiplyn on the day she vanished. This included not only the older student, Chris, whose name had surfaced early in the investigation, but also other classmates who had previously escaped close scrutiny. The police methodically interviewed these individuals, probing for inconsistencies in their stories, searching for the elusive clue that could crack the case wide open. Meanwhile, the Davis family found themselves in a whirlwind of emotions. The resurgence of the investigation brought a mixture of hope and anxiety. Each new piece of information, each police visit, rekindled their hope for closure, but also reminded them of the painful possibility that they might never see Kiplyn again. The community of Spanish Fork, too, was deeply affected. The case had touched everyone in the town, and the renewed investigation brought back old fears and questions. People began to look at each other with suspicion and uncertainty, wondering if someone they knew, someone they interacted with daily, could be hiding a dark secret. As the investigation progressed, the detectives began to piece together a timeline of the events surrounding Kiplyn's disappearance. They scrutinized school records, phone logs, and personal diaries, trying to create a coherent picture from the myriad of fragments. But the breakthrough the detectives and the Davis family were hoping for remained elusive. The web of relationships and teenage secrets proved difficult to untangle. With each passing day, the frustration grew, but so did the determination to solve the mystery. The case of Kiplyn Davis had become more than just an investigation. It was a journey into the heart of a small town, revealing the complexities of human relationships and the lengths to which people will go to protect their secrets. The web of intrigue that surrounded Kiplyn's disappearance was intricate, but the resolve to find the truth was stronger than ever. Years had passed since Kiplyn Davis vanished from Spanish Fork, her absence a constant presence in the heart of the community. The renewed investigation, sparked by a classmate's revelation, had brought new energy and focus, but the elusive truth remained just out of reach. In this small town, where everyone thought they knew each other, the case of Kiplyn Davis had sown seeds of doubt and suspicion. The once tranquil streets were now pathways of unspoken questions, the friendly greetings shadowed by the unsolved mystery. The detectives, relentless in their pursuit, found themselves at the crossroads of hope and despair. They had unearthed a myriad of secrets, lies, and half-truths. Yet the key to unlocking the mystery of Kiplyn's disappearance continued to elude them. Each lead, each interview seemed to only deepen the enigma. For the Davis family, the passage of time was a double-edged sword. Each day brought them further from the last time they saw Kiplyn. Yet it also brought them closer to a possible resolution. They held on to hope, an unbreakable thread connecting them to their missing daughter. As the investigation entered yet another phase, a breakthrough finally emerged. A combination of re-examined evidence, new technology, and relentless detective work led to a shocking discovery. The web of deceit and secrets that had shrouded Kiplyn's disappearance began to unravel, revealing a narrative more complex and heart-wrenching than anyone had imagined. The truth, when it finally came to light, was a testament to the tenacity of those who sought it. It brought closure to some questions, but also opened new wounds. The revelation of what happened to Kiplyn Davis on that fateful day in May 1995 sent ripples through Spanish Fork, altering the fabric of the community forever. In the end, the case of Kiplyn Davis transcended the boundaries of a typical police investigation. It became a story of a small town confronting its darkest fears, of a family's unwavering love and determination, and of the enduring quest for truth. As the final chapter of this saga closed, the impact of Kiplyn's story lingered. It reminded everyone in Spanish Fork of the fragility of life, the complexity of human relationships, and the unyielding power of hope. Kiplyn's legacy was not defined by her disappearance, but by the love she inspired and the relentless pursuit of truth that her absence ignited. In Spanish Fork, the echo of Kiplyn's story would continue to resonate, a bittersweet melody of loss, love, and the enduring quest for justice. Her memory, forever etched in the heart of the community, would serve as a reminder that even in the darkest of times, hope remains a beacon, guiding the way forward.